Okay, onagariwa higajoko, so what I will see us nyari. It's gazita zrio, yojets kahawanoji, and that just going to star her on that running. Okay, I'm not doing the opening right now, just to identify that we're here, we're on the site we returned to the scene of the crime, where everybody from the survival school, not the survival school, that was in Howard S. Billings in 1978 walked out and came here. This was the site where people came. There was trailers set up here. This place, the Golden Age Club was not here at the time. It was the field was filled with trailers. They were like these industrial office trailers, that type of thing. And there was other places in Kanienkehaka where people were going to school. Okay, so people are just starting to gather for this meeting, and we're not really expecting a big turnout. But what is important is the subject matter. You don't have to have everybody in the world here to be discussing the subject matter. This affects everybody in Kanienkehaka. It has affected everyone in Kanienkehaka. If you are my age and a little bit younger, let's see, I was 15 in 1978, so I was in grade 10. You might be, let's see, 3 years younger than me. So if you're 60 years old and you went to school in Kanienkehaka at the survival school, you are directly affected by this. There's no way in hell you were not affected by the lead saturation that is in the current Kanienkehaka school KSS site, the current one and the one that was previously there. Okay, so we're going to get started with the meeting. I guess if everybody's ready. If there's anybody who doesn't want to be filmed, then what we're going to do is whoever is going to speak, we're going to just be filming the speaker. If you don't want to be filmed, then just let us know that you don't want to be filmed. We'll accommodate that, but if you don't mind, if you don't want to be filmed, if you don't mind, if you are going to speak, then this is public information, public knowledge. So we'll film from off the side from you, where you can't be seen, but your voice can be heard. This is the most important thing, for everybody's voice, whoever is gathered, for your voice to be heard. If you're here and if you're, say, against what we're addressing, then your voice has to be heard. If you come out publicly to do this, then it's there for everybody to hear. And the reason why we're doing live is because there's people within the other communities like Kanienkehaka, Akwesasne, Tyandanega, that are all watching what is going on here right now. And so not only was it the old site, now it's the current site. As everybody knows, that the Ed Center put out this statement last week of identifying that there was a certain amount of lead that was found in the maple water. Do you remember what the amount was, Curry? 3.5
micrograms per liter in the maple sap
was found in the maple sap. Yeah. Okay, everybody has to know that. How did lead get into the maple sap? Of course, you know that comes from the trees extracting the water out of the ground. But you know that in the winter time, that the ground is too frozen that it's not really extracting water from deep in the ground. What it's doing is it's extracting the snow melt. So this means that whatever was detected there, for whoever done this testing, whatever was detected there was detected from this year's snowfall. So it's contaminants in this year's snowfall. They did not test the water, the groundwater. They just tested what is in the maple water. So that means it's what's there on the surface. How did it get there on the surface? There's only one way it got there on the surface, and this is through the air. Now the stuff of this, when we identify that it's been saturated, that's over the decades, because that battery plant was there prior to the Kanienkehaka Survival School moving there in 79 or 80, whenever it was. Because that old, what TerraPure is now, it used to be Nova, and that was there since at least the mid-70s. So for at least 4 to 5 years, there was already lead contamination being done there on that site. And that's when people from Kanienkehaka decided to place our children there. Somebody from Kanienkehaka, we know who it was the band system. There's no denying that. It was the band system that decided to place that there, but this had to have been done through a consultation process that I was not a part of because I wasn't here. So there's other people in Kanienkehaka. I asked just a moment ago, I don't know if you want to be named, she's up there hiding. I asked a cousin of mine who's the same age as me, who was in the same school, Billings, at the same time as me, we're in the same grade. I went to Arizona with my family following ironwork in 1978 in March. So in September, this is when everybody walked out. Now I remember why everybody walked out, because of the systemic racism that was all over the place in Howard S. Billings. Some of you may recall there was even riots there between the students, the native students and the non-native students and their families. If you recall that, I'll just remind you that they chose to play a movie there that was called Soldier Blue. Now, if any of you know that movie, that was one of the most racist movies ever. And this is what they chose to play at a Friday night movie night at Howard S. Billings, where there's natives and non-natives, caused a riot. The non-native people, their families came out to get involved to actually fight against the students, the native students that were there. So this was the systemic racism that we grew up in, that I seen personally in Howard S. Billings. Now, the rest of you who are younger than me, or who are maybe a little older, you know, if you went to school there, you know of that racism. But if you're younger than me, and you were part of after everybody walked out in 78, then you're not aware of that racism. And so you just think that whatever's happening in the school here, if you went to high school here in Kanienkehaka, you just think it's normal. It's not normal. It's not normal for any community to place a high school next to an industrial complex, much less a lead recycling plant where there is obviously lead in the air, in the water, in the land. So who done this to us? Now you can think, if you went to survival school, you can think that you're normal. You can believe that all you want. But if you're subjected to poison, cancer-causing poisons that attacks everything, because lead attacks the central nervous system, it attacks the brain, it attacks your reproductive system, it causes every kind of problem you can think of, from anxiety to depression to headaches to even to disrupt your behavior. Like what we know, what has happened here in Kanienkehaka. People come together, they get married, they break up. It's the norm. It wasn't the norm before that. Anybody who can remember further than me, if you're older than 63, you can remember that was not the norm. That was not what was happening here in Kanienkehaka. But since then, this is what has been inflicted into our people. Now, am I making this up? When my kids were old enough to go to school, I trusted their mother, even though we were not together, I trusted their mother to make the decision as to where they were going to go to school. I wanted them to go to school here in Kanienkehaka, but their mother said no. And because of, I know that at the very least, there you see the, from the highway, you see the big industrial complex. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, you don't put your children right next to that. You don't put them right on top of that. Only a complete idiot would do that. So this is not something that I'm making up. This is something that I am very concerned about, because it's our faces yet beneath the earth. If anybody else is not concerned about it right now, well then the hell with you. I don't care about you if you don't care about our faces yet beneath the earth. But our faces yet beneath the earth that are rising are going to rise into going to school where they're currently going to school, which is what, just a few hundred meters away from the old site, like as if it's an improvement. Well, here they just, however long the new site has been there, how long, does anybody know? 10 years?
2008.
91? 2008? 2008?
About 2008, yeah.
A lot of guys from Kanienkehaka worked on that site.
Do you remember how long ago they
It was 2008, 2009, it opened.
Okay, so look,
Maybe
from
15, 16 years.
15 years, And this is the first time they detect lead in the maple water. You know why? Because they never tested before. And just to think, if for 15 years, if the first time you test, you're going to find lead in maple water.
There was testing done before on the site, and it was never distributed to the community.
So then this is where we know, cover up.
Yeah.
Now who would cover up information like that? In the community where where we all got to take care of each other's kids. I'm concerned about your kids. You should be concerned about my kids, even if we're on opposite sides of whatever kind of stupid division is here in Kanienkehaka. We should all care about each other's kids. If you're mad at me, why would you project that to my children? I don't project that to anybody's children in Kanienkehaka. I'm here out of the concern for everybody's children in Kanienkehaka and what is to be your bloodline, your grandchildren. Imagine when you're going to be holding your grandchild, a baby that's got some kind of defect within them. That isn't something that is natural, that wouldn't naturally arise within the bloodline. When you sit your children on top of lead, you're guaranteeing that there's going to be some kind of disease, some kind of illness, some kind of mental disorder. No matter how much you don't want to admit it. If you went to school there, you are inflicted with this. So now that it is discovered on the new grounds in the maple water, and they got the nerve enough to say that it's safe for the students to still be going to school there. How much does anybody here, other than you, does anybody here know how much lead is okay to be exposed to? Zero. Is that right? Zero amount of lead.
No safe level.
There is no safe level. They don't even make pencils anymore with lead inside of them. Remember when we were in school when I was a kid, what would we do to pencils? We'd bite them. We're exposed directly to lead. To have our children there still to this day, despite that 2 weeks ago, that they had the nerve enough to come out and say there's lead there, but it's still safe for the kids. Again, this is a cover-up on top of a cover-up. There is people conspiring to undermine your children. And when you think of the band system, they're the only ones that are doing this. Where do they send their children? Are their children in survival school? No way in hell. Their children are all sent outside, so they don't give a good goddamn. It's like there is a caste system here in Kanienkehaka of the higher-ups who aren't even Kanienkehaka owners. You look at the people that are in charge of the schools. They're not even Kanienkehaka owners. They're white people. And then the band system turns around and says, well, they're the only ones that qualify who met the criteria, the qualifications. Nobody in Kanienkehaka is going to meet those qualifications because we're not them on the outside. And them on the outside is what's controlling the band system. And that's the ones that are covering up. This is, as we say, if you agree with me or not, this is the genocide compliant. They are compliant with a genocide that is an extension of smallpox-infested blankets. That's an extension of the British Church Nazis' concentration camps on native children, what they call residential schools. And anybody, if you continue to call those things residential schools, you are a retard. An outright retard. Those were concentration camps. And that school right there, right now, where it is, that's a continuation of the smallpox-infested blankets, of the concentration camps on native children. This is our line. Now, when we understand that for 500 years we are being bombarded, confronted with a systemic racial colonial genocide, then we'll be able to understand what is happening to us here and how and why we got to stand up against this. Doesn't matter how old or how young you are. Everybody's got to take a stand on what's being done to the students that are there right now. To all the students that were there must be some type of process of testing. You went to school there, you got to be tested. They got to test your blood. They got to test you for everything what long-term exposure to lead would lead to, and you got to be tested for all of these things.
Amongst other elements.
Yeah, amongst other things, but mainly here, of course, we're focusing on the lead, but everything else. So, who's going to pay for this? Do we have the ability to do this ourselves? Do you think that it's necessary, that it's justified for us to do testing of all the students who have been there in the last 40 years? If you don't think that's necessary, then there's something wrong with you. Because what it turns out to is that either we are afraid to confront our genocider, or we just don't give a damn about our children. Which one is it? Now, if we give a damn about our children, then we got to be brave enough to confront our genocider. And I'll say to you, our genocider is not out there. Our genocider is right in here, Kanienkehaka, making the decisions. Who made the decision to place the students out there. So, what the obvious solution is here right now, immediate, the same way that students walked out of the Howard S. buildings in '78, that was immediate. And when that was done, people had to accommodate the immediate problem. So immediate, those students must get out of that school, and the entire town must accommodate the problem. The best way to accommodate it is to put them in the safe places that are already here that can accommodate them. And the obvious is to switch locations. Put all the people in the band system out there in the survival school. Bring the students here into the safety of the community. Who in their right mind took them out of this safe place? They were right here. They were right here.
Yeah, right here.
Right in the middle of the community.
Right, exactly here.
Why would they not have built the school here? Why? Who's the brainiacs decided to put it out there in an industrial complex? So today, this is what must be addressed, the overall thing of the immediate danger, the immediate threat. So the students must be taken out of that school, placed into places that can accommodate here in Kanienkehaka. That's the band system. That's economic development over there, the business complex, and wherever else in town that could accommodate. This is what must be done. And then, until we get the wherewithal and the ability to say where we're going to build a new school, which should be right here, where the students walked to in the first place, back in '78. Those were the ones who were brave enough to address the genocide that was being inflicted upon us. Like I said, I wasn't here because in March of '78, my family went to Arizona following the ironwork. Just like a lot of people were not here because their families went all over the place. As you know, there was little Kanienkehakis in Texas, in Dallas. There was little Kanienkehakis in LA. There was little Kanienkehaka in Phoenix, in New York. Everywhere there was little Kanienkehakis. And there was young kids that were there from Kanienkehaka. So there were so many that were not here that couldn't stand. But the rest that did, I know, you walked out. You stood for it. You stood up to protect yourselves. And now here we are, discovering that for the past 40 years, our children have been sitting on top of us, lead-saturated grounds. Because that's what it is there, lead-saturated. What does lead do to the human body, to the human mind? Can you inform everybody?
Well, lead has been studied because, as you remember, there was lead in gas, and there was lead in paint. So a lot of inner city kids were followed. And studies done in Pittsburgh and inner cities in New York showed that kids exposed to lead had almost immediate learning difficulties, had behavior difficulties later on, oppositional behavior, etc. And they're still being followed, and adults, when they were kids exposed to lead, still have effects of it. And emotional effects, social effects. So lead is a very, very bad heavy metal. Even if you test a person that is exposed to lead and 2 weeks later they have no more lead in them, just because the lead has left doesn't mean the damages of lead. We call it a hit and run chemical. It goes into the body, causes damages, then it leaves. There will be a challenge to test adults today that went to the school that were exposed to high lead at the old KSS campus. It is possible. This is why I'm asking you if any of you still have your old, your teeth, your milk teeth, or even young adult teeth. Lead accumulates in the teeth. So we can, if we have those teeth, evaluate what you were exposed to or what your child was exposed to back then. Some people keep their teeth. I know my wife keeps her teeth. And I don't know why, I don't keep mine. But anyway, but some people do. So you can test. Okay. Another way is very much more intrusive is going into the bone and testing the bone. You don't want to do that because it's not fun. There are other ways to find out, to evaluate exposure by looking at soil concentration in the areas exposed. You can kind of figure out what kids were exposed to by just playing. And we know, you look at the old KSS site, there's a track field. So the kids were out there playing lacrosse, soccer.
But not only that, we ate the apples on the trees.
Well, there you go. And so the idea is that because lead is an element, it doesn't go away. It never degrades. Once lead is in the soil, it stays in the soil. It may trickle off, but usually high lead contamination stays there. So if you measure lead in the soil, and if you measure lead in deeper soil, you may even come back to what was the concentrations in the 80s and the 90s, by going a little deeper. And so then we could try to calculate, okay, kids were here, they walked, they played, they breathed the air, they breathed the dust. What could have been their exposure? And then there's neurological testing where you would go, and there's some neurologists that can test for deficiencies related to lead. There is this signature of neurological testing that can be done to figure out if a person was exposed to lead. So there are ways to do that. But I just want to warn the community, it's not going to be good news. So you have to be prepared to get bad news. You have to be prepared to maybe find out that your kids were exposed to lead and that were affected. How to repair for that? I do not know. How to repair for a young child who's been affected from it? I do not know. But I agree, Stuart. That school should not be there. It's too close to. So you have a choice: either the lead smelter moves away, stops operating, or the school moves away. But somebody has to move to avoid exposure. So that's it.
I'm sorry, I apologize to everybody. I should have introduced him first. Obviously, he's not a Mohawk, he's not a native, he's not from Kanienkehaka, he's a white guy. His name is Daniel Green. He's the head of the SVP corporation organization.
Non-profit group.
Non-profit group. He is the go-to guy in all of Quebec. If the province of Quebec wants to know anything about water or anything like that, like the stuff he's talking about, they go to him. He is the expert in this field. So he's not, again, I apologize, he's not a Kanienkehaka at all, but he has been helping us for decades. About 25 years ago, he helped us test the waters in the quarry, because back then, I don't know if any of you remember, there was these talk about beaver fever and whatever else in the quarry, ridiculous. Anyways, so we got it tested. Yeah. Okay, so Okay, so that's Daniel Green. He's the expert in his field. There is nobody that will like denounce what he's saying, because this is scientific fact. So the scientific fact reveals to us something of immediate action we got to take, even if it's 40 years too late. It's got to be immediate. Once we find out, we got to take immediate action. Okay, for myself, if there's anybody else that wants to say anything, we're going to pass the fella around. And just to ask, again, do you mind being recorded? Okay, make sure.
Señor Fuego, Sanagoa, I'd like to properly introduce myself first. I'm the grandson of Irene Rice, Kanienkehaka woman, no clan. Son of Oanogo, Margaret Phillips, Taibo, Hagamonstinik Bear clan. Grandson of Margaret Mator Taibo, Turtle clan, son of Uitanoro, Zuze Taibo, Turtle clan. I am Gahirodo, Kerry Taibo, Bear clan. First of all, thank everybody for being here today. Some of the preliminary testing that was done on the site, like other industries within Kanienkehaka, they are a filtered, diluted sample, which I bring to the University of Montreal. So as you're saying, it's filtered and diluted, so reuse are low. Like I said, another corporation, industries in Kanienkehaka were unfortunately discredited by it. Samples are collected in a tube, filtered, syringed into these. I can show you. This is just mud from my yard. That's where other contaminants be in. Smaller stuff's in here. I'll pass that around. I'm asking not to open up the tube so it stays sterile and not contaminated, because it's still usable, brand new, and even polluters have a fair chance. Okay, so I was contacted in the end of November about the discharge TerraPure into the river. I've collected monitoring well samples from the sites, surface water, some unfortunate rope hills are on the site, and snow collections. Within Kanienkehaka, on the site of the old campus, St. Isidore, and St. Catherine's, and you have from 0.2 micrograms per liter of lead and up to 644.2 micrograms per liter on the old campus of lead. Like I said, there's other elements here I've included that we're finding, aluminum, chromium, which we also taken a look at. On the periodic table. Something has to be done. I went to school, survival school, old campus. My children been to the new school, all of my children. I haven't known children all of them, but end this. Things have to be done. I looked on my own property, where we used to garden, and unfortunately I found lead in snow. Where did the lead come from? Along other elements, like the Foxy's Road, is you have a large lead smelter. TerraPure. They recycle batteries, they melt the lead down and make bricks, they sell it. Everything that they melt goes up the chimney and out. Other organizations in Kanienkehaka, I don't know if they're looking at these things as far as we know, no. Why wasn't there things are kept from us. They sign a privacy waiver and nobody knows nothing. We're left here since the 80s not knowing anything. I've seen it on dairy farms since the door. OCR 200 feet from the edge of the territory. So it makes it to St. Door, it makes it to Checky. It makes it to St. Catherine. Depending on the wind velocity, it's probably Kanienkehaka. It's not just our problem. It's the surrounding community's problem as well. But we get the wind here, it's 25% of the time that it's here. Some of those the emissions from the smokestacks between 900 and 1,050 kilograms of lead that comes from these smokestacks. It's a problem, not only here on the outside. I have a game plan. We collect as much data as possible, get the north as hard as we can, and when they're on the ground, is the rest up to Kanienkehaka and the surrounding communities to come and pick them and finish them off. There's no other alternative. I'm not saying we actually go and kick them in the head, but you know what I mean. What should be decided here today is that we have to have our brothers and sisters from the outside community working in some two-row something that we have to band together. There's no choice. If the band system don't want to help, these things should have all been taken 100% serious. I've spoken with former workers at KSS. They said samples were taken and there was lead accumulation detected. They didn't give me concentrations or anything, but that's on and off the site. Why were we never told about these things? Why were we allowed, or were we subjected to these things? So there's not much more to say than that. Testing is going to continue. We have air to check. We've got soil. We need the support of the community. We need the outside support because it's not just us.
Okay, just so that if anybody's going to speak, you got to talk a little bit louder. They're telling us that it's hard to hear because of the wind. And just to adjust some of the things that Curry is putting forward, as you see, he put out these things that he used to do the testing, and he put out the document that identifies all the particulates, the amount, the levels. I know that some people can't read that. I can barely read it. The only reason why I can a little bit is because he taught me how to read it. Now, he taught me how to read it because he was taught by Daniel how to read these things. He was taught by Daniel, correct, of how to collect these data.
Daniel is a very good mentor of mine. I appreciate him being here with us. We have a good alliance. We have the backup now. Research for the front lines. Marcia and the gang, Ellis. Professor Kevin Wilkins at Montreal
So there is a sort of ragtag group of two-row wampum relationship going on here.
Plus, I've done a lot of research myself, a lot of reading on the elements. We live in the basin. There's naturally occurring radioactive material, gold here. So, if you look on the paperwork, there's an element there. It's designated AU. There's gold. You see it here and there. That's why that's here. That's here. That's another thing we're gonna get onto. So it's tip of the iceberg here, and we're gonna get it done.
Okay, just to kind of play devil's advocate here to some degree, I was just informed that KSCS is having, I think it's or community service, somebody today within the band system is having a meeting talking about specifically about this issue about the lead. So I'll be the first to make concession and to say that we must band together. That I don't care if it's band system people, and I don't like band system people. I'm against band system 100%. But if there is people in the band system that are willing to stand up and to take action on this lead issue to remove our students, our children, even though I don't have children there, anybody's children that are going to be affected there, it's going to end up affecting my heart the same way that it's going to affect the hearts of the families whose children are actually there. So we must all together work. If there is a movement within the band system, yes, we're all willing to work together. We're all willing to take this stand, this position together against what this it's identified as systemic, racial, industrial, and environmental racism. This is what's being inflicted upon us. It's actually like kind of like a new discovery or a new field that hasn't been known before. But when you think of in the treaties, it's identified that the white man is not supposed to get close to us. If we see that the white man is getting too close to us in the treaties, this is identified. They even identified it in writing that if the white man gets too close to us, we are to make known to their Indian agent, and their Indian agent will deal with that. That means Chattagee, putting their shit house right on top of Kanienkehaka is illegal. That means everything, putting their industrial complex there, you know, down Industrial Boulevard, that is illegal. For the lead to be put, the lead recycling plant and all of that stuff right on the edge of the reserve, it's illegal from the get-go.
Contaminated landfill projects.
And we all know, if you're at least my age, we all know of the landfills that were here in Kanienkehaka. I remember as a kid going to the landfill behind Jimmy Fine Days there, where the driving range is now. Do any of you remember that landfill there? There was fire coming out of the ground year round there. In the winter time we went there and there was fire, a bunch of fires coming out of the ground. I remember that. I'm sure you must remember that. You must have been playing out there as a kid too. So we can all remember these things. Is it so far-fetched for us to think that in this day and age that we would still be the recipients of genocide? Is it that far-fetched? We must pull our heads out of wherever they've been and to come into the reality. Okay, anyways, if there's anybody else wants to address anything, keep in mind, we're not going to say, okay, we're going to do this, do you agree, and we're going to go and do that. No, today is just to get the ball rolling. We got a non-native, a white guy here, an expert in his field, who's helping us, who's giving us his expertise and telling us, hey, you better get your students out of there. The school should not be there. What are you going to do about it?
Well, what we're going to do, we're going to put this man in charge, and he's second.
Okay. Okay.
Terry wants to be in charge.
You're the leader. But I say he's second because he's the one doing all the testing, and he's getting the results.
Can't stop him testing.
Well, he needs help.
Well,
He
like
needs help. He's
he just
taking
said
off.
now we're gonna join together with the band system. I heard something too, but if they're gonna do something, he should be involved in Kerry too.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody's going to be involved. There's no way he's not going to be
Right.
involved. Daniel
And
Green,
he's number one.
no matter what, anybody's going to collect data, it's going to him. If the band system is collecting data, it's going to him.
All right,
So he's already on board.
that's good.
Not because of he's getting paid $1 bazillion for this. He's not getting paid nothing. Like the way Curry and his family isn't getting paid nothing. Taking it out of their pocket. Just to do the gas, to go around town, to do all this testing. That's coming out of their own pocket. And let's all face it. It's not the rich people that are doing anything. They're not going to do anything. Just like always, no matter where you are, the only people who are going to be concerned and to take action on their concerns is the people who are the poor people. So the poor people need help in this. The system is the one that is complied, and this is what has to happen. The people currently in the band system, we can say, yous were not there. 40 years ago when that decision was made to put the school there, yes, we know yous were not there. But 40 years later, when you are in that band system and you continue to allow it, then you are compliant. So that means it's just like you were there in the beginning. So if you're in the band system, stand up, take action, come out and voice it. You don't have to voice it to us. Whatever grandstand you use in this town, use it. We do weekly Zooms. Anybody can voice their opinion there. You know, everybody knows, everybody's watching it. But if not, you got the different news outlets. Make it your initiative. Get on the radio, get on the talk show, bring it out. There needs to be more action by more people than just the people who have been spearheading this. It's a lot of pressure because I know that Curry and his family are even the recipients of people bullying them from the system. Because we all know how Kanienkehaka works. We can't be naive to the way that nepotism and your allegiance to, if you're in this group or this gang or whatever in Kanienkehaka, we know that, hey, once you're in this group or this group, you're against the others. And even if they're working for the truth, we know the way Kanienkehaka is. They won't come out and work for the truth. So we got to do something different here. Basically, what we got to do is pull a rabbit out of a hat. We are the hat. We are the ones that have been allowing this to happen. We got to make ourselves do something about ourselves. Otherwise, the whole shithouse just keeps going up in flames. If there's anything else that anybody wants to say
Can I
or
ask a
address
question
on
to
this?
Daniel?
What?
Can I ask a question to you?
Of course.
Are they still, or is anybody still testing that pipe that goes into the seaway? Like,
Yes.
is it being monitored?
It's being
Because
monitored.
when I was at a band meeting, they said it had an overflow and
Yes, they
had
did.
to dump it
Yeah.
straight in.
But there's a prosecution. There's a federal prosecution against the company for dumping in the seaway.
Okay, so how do they keep track of it, monitor it, whatever?
They have monitors. The government sends inspectors to take samples.
But they
from the
would
pipe.
do the dumping in the middle of the night when nobody's around.
It's true, but they could also test sediment, and sediment, the contaminants stick to the sediment, so you can test after the dumping. You could also test it directly the sewer. Some of these things stick to the sewer. You go in the sewer and test the sewer. Sometimes even midnight dumping leaves traces, leaves tracks. So there are ways to test.
That's why, especially those people should know about that, because maybe they get their drinking water.
Well, there's always a drinking water downstream. We all know that. But there's a federal prosecution against Kanienkehaka. It is now in the Kanienkehaka courthouse, I think. Kanienkehaka courthouse, and so there is a federal prosecution, but nothing on the air.
So
the Quebec government recently renewed their permit to operate.
There was another thing. We just had the radio station. 45 years, I believe, have been here. They had people from everywhere come out of the woodwork. Their names, hearing what they did for the radio station. And this should be done for the survival school too. Go back when the school started.
Yes.
People that were in charge, they're the ones responsible for putting that. From here to there, they're the ones. Just like the radio, like I said, the radio station, 45 years. How they praise them and everything.
well, we could ask the people of Kanienkehaka to come out of their own free will and bring this information forward, but it's not happening. So you know what's going to end up happening, like what Curry had to do to get information from the band system. He had to actually go to so-called Canada's access to information. They wouldn't give it to him. So going to Canada's access to information, they got it. So you know what? The band system is still hiding that. They're still hiding it. So we're going to ask for people to bring out, like he said, even if there's old pictures, if you went to school there, bring your pictures out. I don't know where you're going to bring it to, because I know you're not going to bring it to me. Bring it to Curry. Bring it to Curry and Gazitza Howie. They're the ones that have been spearheading this, but then again, it takes work. So they need people to help work. I know that if I'm involved, people are not going to want to get involved. So I step back. The thing that I do is to force it, to help everybody to bring this to the public level that it needs to be. The fact that Daniel's identifying, I'm sure you're involved in it, that this federal action, the lawsuit against TerraPure, it's quiet. It's not like the way it should be, that it broadcasts to everybody, because then all the people in St. Gustav, Elson, all the way to Sorel would be up in arms. Why? The biggest battery recycling plant in all of so-called Canada, placed right on the river, that everybody from here out to the Gaspé is exposed to. Now, maybe by the time particulates get to Quebec City, maybe it's so minimal that you might disassociate it from being the cause of TerraPure. But no matter what, TerraPure is the #1 polluter in all of so-called Quebec when it comes to lead, when it comes to the neurotoxin of lead. They're the #1 polluter in all of so-called Canada, because they're the largest battery recycling plant. So we all know that we got to do something about batteries. We got to recycle them. We're not just going to throw them in the ground. But then we got to figure out something that private industry should not be left responsible for. The public, there must be like a newer, more strict guideline or something, you know, as to say where you can do this and where you can't. And #1, you can't do it near a native reserve, because we're bombarded by every other goddamn thing. Look at every reserve like Akwesasne. If we don't have aluminum smelter plants right next to us, which is a neurotoxin, then we got lead. And upstream by Valleyfield, you look at all the neurotoxins that are there, coming directly to us. And we here in Kanienkehaka, we're at the bottom of a basin. This is a cloud that we're in. And everything from the Adirondacks, everything from as far as to the what are the mountains up north? Laurentians. We're right at the bottom of it. It all comes right here to us. So we got enough bombardment of pollution. So any kind of activity like that in the non-native world cannot be around native communities. It cannot. This is a violation of 2-row wampum.
Just to mention, the workers of the TerraPure plant are heavily contaminated. There's been workplace safety interventions. The workers have to be moved out of the plant to lower the lead. The lead is still very high in these workers. So TerraPure has contaminated its own workers. And so
like everywhere else.
The morality of the owners of this plant don't expect a lot of sympathy from them. And so this is why there has to be some hard action against them, because they're not going to do it themselves. Essentially, they don't care. If they don't care about the workers, they don't care about the native community next to them. They don't care about the community close to the plant in Sainte Catherine. They don't care about the fish. They just don't care. And when you have a corporation that doesn't care, then governments have to step in. Native governments, colonial governments, but somebody has to step in to say, this has to stop.
All levels of native government. Here in Kanienkehaka, as you know, you got the sellout van system. Yes, I'll call them sellout van system because that's what they are. But if they're willing to swim in the opposite direction, then they'll be swimming with us. And if they're swimming with us, then we can all work together. So here in Kanienkehaka, there's what? There's the 207, there's the Mohawk Trail. What are you doing about it? Are you doing anything about it? or you're just allowing the band system to represent you and to do what they're doing and covering up the information. So come on out. Don't come out here to talk to me or to talk to us. Just get out there and make this information known. Prove to the people that you are whatever level of Mohawk government. If you're a longhouse, you should be on top of this thing. If you're the band system, well, we all know there's compliance. There's cover-up. So if you're in the band system, start not complying. Start uncovering. If you know information, don't be so goddamn concerned about your job. Be concerned about your people. Be concerned about the children, the faces yet beneath the earth, who are going to end up having even brain defects, where they're not going to be normal. Where, like, we're seeing a rash of different illnesses that in our children need constant monitoring or assistance throughout, even into their adult years. We never needed that before. It wasn't like that before. It's like that now. And if it's like that now and we don't do nothing, you know it's going to get worse. So when we get older, we all expect our children to take care of us. But what if our children are the ones that we got to take care of? What's going to happen in the final days of our lives? Are we going to be able to pass from this world in peace? Because we're going to be so concerned about taking care of our children, who are going to be adults who can't take care of themselves.
33.
So come out and do something. Not to say anything, like I said, we're not here today to make a big decision and we're going to move and we're going to do this. We're here just to bring this information to get the ball rolling.
For this subject, TerraPure, I will collaborate with people and the band system. Even though in the past,
22.
I was discredited,
43.
dismissed, verbally and physically attacked my family. Yes, we're gonna Kanienkehaka and surrounding communities. I will work with you
26.
on this project. Maybe things will come of it and get the ball moving on other things, which I didn't forget about. So,
30.
I even at one point I had concerns for my health and I asked for information and I was denied.
19.
So that, are they just as bad as TerraPure? I don't know. Probably. But I'm willing on this.
21.
This could begin the healing of a bigger process in Kanienkehaka, where collectively we are the victims of 500 years of genocide. So this could be the beginning of a pushback from all of us to save our nation, to save our bloodlines, that our faces yet beneath the earth are going to have a healthy earth to rise from, as opposed to what we know is happening. Something that you said earlier just comes to mind. It makes me think of something. If it's going to be hard to test, like say for somebody who went to school at the survival school in 1980, if it's going to be physically hard to test them, then what we got to develop is a questionnaire. Did you experience this?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. There's neurological testing where you can test for lesions by doing various neurological testing, nerve condition, memory, and things like that. So there are a battery of tests that can be done to assess if a person has a neurological disease. And a lot of these symptoms can be associated to neurotoxins like lead, mercury. So there can be an assessment, okay? Again, the best thing is to have a blood lead or a tooth lead measurement, because that would explain. But there, in other First Nations exposed to mercury, Grass Narrows and Croydon, there was no blood testing, but yet people are diagnosed with mercury poisoning based on a diagnosis of a neurological diagnosis. And they can be compensated for that under the mercury compensation regime. So there are ways to test people without taking a sample from them to assess if they've been exposed to a neurotoxin like that.
So what we got to do is develop first like easy steps, because I know that this is going to be hard for Kanienkehaka, especially if you went to school there. It's going to be hard to accept. So we're going to have to first create a simple, easy questionnaire that you can like a pre-test, you know, like to get you in the door. So we got to work on this. So if there's anybody out there, including yourself, if there's anybody there who could help us to establish a questionnaire like this, you know, that we could apply to everybody in Kanienkehaka and people who lived within a certain perimeter, certain distance of the school, you know, then that means everybody down 9C, you know, everybody there can be developed some kind of testing for residents, other questionnaire of testing for people who are students, you know, like things like, I know that my niece has migraines, that migraines bothered her, but she wasn't like this when she was younger. And I know that lead has this effect also, that it causes headaches, causes migraines, other neurological disorders. I know it's a hard thing to accept, but if you detected in yourself, even say something with your motor skills, or where you felt a little bit dizzy or something, you know, like stuff like this, this is what we got to put in this questionnaire. This is what everybody in Kanienkehaka should participate in, because even where I live up the hill, that according to the measurements that we're taking and the wind directions, that lead's coming right to my house. It's coming right to me. It's going all the way to Big Fence. So if you're anywhere in between there, which is pretty much the whole damn town, I mean, anything else towards Chattageek, that's not really much residential there. It's up to 207, you know, like the 138 kind of towards Chattageek. There's not much residential there. But the rest of Kanienkehaka is directly in the line. We all know that before, the winds were always predominantly from the west. Now, if you've been paying attention, you know for at least about 15 years, the winds have been coming from the east. Not all the time, not constantly, but they have been pushing in from the east. So that's taken everything from Terrapure directly over the KSS grounds, directly into first everybody who's living out there down 9C. Think of all the people who just live across the street, all the good leaves, everybody else that lives down there. All exposed to it. So, we need a lot of help. The people of Kanienkehaka need to help ourselves. We need to overcome our stupidity. And I'll say that maybe the stupidity isn't even our stupidity. Maybe it's something that was actually inflicted upon us. Here's stupidness. The same way that smallpox infested blankets was not, when we began to show the signs and effects of it, it didn't come from us. It comes from them. It comes from our colonial genociders. Don't forget what we're fighting here. We're not fighting each other. We're fighting a 500-year-long systemic racial, colonial, industrial, and environmental racism. You know what they've done to our children, what they call residential schools. Those were concentration camps upon our children.
I-16.
Most of our children had brains enough to even run away from that, even facing death. What are our elders gonna do? We got brains enough to face the same death, the same peril that those children did? Or are we just gonna stay like quiet little crybabies? Protest once in a while, hold a protest sign. Protest against yourself. Okay, anyways, you know I could go on and on.
Stuart's right, you know, because when my mother died in 1968, we were supposed to be just taken away by Indian Affairs and displaced off the reserve. Well, supposed to be taken off the reserve in 1968. My grandparents took us in because they knew what went on off the reserve at those, like he said, concentration camps. They weren't residential schools back then. They were called something more evil than that. And my grandparents kept us here, and we're still here today, all of us. And I thank them for that. It was very hard, still hard today.
Yeah.
Question for Daniel. I did some research. With these lead contaminants, be detectable in X-rays if you had an X-ray done of your femoral tibial articulation, your knee. Would that settle in your knee?
There is an X-ray technique, XRF, to use to detect minerals. I'm not sure it's safe to expose human body to those.
You're on a regular X-ray, that would.
No, you wouldn't show it in a regular X-ray. You would have to have an XRF fluorescence X-ray. I could check to see if it's possible. I usually, because geologists use it to detect the lead and metals and rocks, right? It's handheld in some machines, and it can detect. But can you apply it to a bone inside a human without harming the human? I do not know. So before I get into that. But if a person, for instance, has to have an operation, has to have some bone removed, okay, or if a person has a bad accident, and I mean, I don't want to get into gore here, but there are ways, and of course, autopsies.
Okay, you just touched on a nerve here in Kanienkehaka that everybody knows of. How many of you know somebody in your family, an elder, who's getting a knee or a hip replacement? Here, we can get bone samples from them and then test that, right?
They have to agree that their and their attending physician has to agree also. So there's a lot of hoops, but it can be done. It can be done. Another thing that Kerry has mentioned, talking about roadkill, we can also test animals for lead accumulation. Because we can do things to animals that we can't do to humans. So hunters in the area and even roadkill can be used to detect concentrations of lead in the animal. And often you could say, well, if a groundhog on KSS has high levels of lead, well, how about the kids that play in the same field? And so you can do some association between animals living in a contaminated area and humans living there also.
So then a cooperation we can do here is if somebody sees a dead animal on the road, pick it up, we can bring it to the animal protection and tell them for testing for lead accumulation within them. So then they could freeze it because they got the facilities, and then someone like Curry and Gatitawi or somebody else can come along and take that animal and bring it to where it's got to go. So a cooperation, but then this also means we need, right now, it is a national emergency. So this means we need federal and provincial emergency measures on this to identify to any doctors who are doing hip or knee transplants that they must save that, whatever they take out, they must save it to go for testing for lead. So an overall cooperation of everybody. So I expect now, especially since the band system or somebody, I think it's KSCS, somebody's having a meeting right now today about this, then we can say we'll cooperate together. I will find, if I find a roadkill, I'll bring it to animal protection and tell them that this is for exclusively for like lead testing and contaminants.
We're gonna have to pay for that because people doesn't pay for anything outside testing from our community anymore.
Well, this is why I'm saying this is a national emergency, so we need
has to be federal money.
federal and provincial money because of the fact that the feds have this case against TerraPure. But like he said, and like everybody knows, where's it happening? Who's hearing about it? It's hush hush. You know why? Because it's big money.
Yeah.
And big money comes before people.
One thing that you should know, if the feds do get a conviction, in a long day court against that, we're talking about $5 million. The money for an environmental conviction goes to the environmental damages fund. That fund should be completely transferred to the other one. So you would have a pile of money to do the testing, to do the investigation. And so it should be, and the feds, the Justice Canada has to be told, we want the money to come back here.
Would a placenta be a good bio specimen? Somebody gave birth?
Yeah. See, we're getting, when you start dealing with human biologicals, okay, there's the whole issue of consent, and then there's the issue of, so what if you find something? And I've done, and this is before with children testing, okay? Parents want their children to be tested, okay, fine. But what if we tell the parents, well, your child has high levels of lead or arsenic? It's a big thing to carry. And the child ultimately will have to be told when they're an adult. When you were young, you were exposed to pollution. And so it's a big burden here because the child all of a sudden will have to say, oh yeah? And then a whole bunch of issues like insurance, getting a job. Some employers ask you, have you been exposed to a toxic chemical when you were young? And so there's a whole cascade of effects when a human being is exposed to a toxic chemical, especially when that human being is exposed as a child. So it's very, and this is why we say it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult for the community to come to terms that your children were or are still maybe being contaminated. Just imagine a parent being told that. So there's going to have to be, in addition to the biological sciences and the medical sciences, there's going to have to be some counseling.
You know, when people are affected neurologically, the most that can be done of something like this is mind exercises to get your what the heck did he call that? Your motor skills, you know, like on that they'll maybe give you tests or even therapy to, you know, put the star in the star hole, put the square in the square hole, and so on and so on. But we have the best therapy for that, and that is the council process. If the people collectively return to a council process, everybody's minds would be working, would be exercising, we'd be working on healing, squeezing this poison that has collected in our brains, because that's where lead collects. It's not only in your body, in your bones and stuff like that, but it affects the most delicate part of our existence, the human mind, the brain. So again, just a lot of cooperation. Everybody in Kanienkehaka has to push hard to call and identify a national emergency, to demand that the province of so-called Quebec and the Fed, so-called Canada, that they make all provisions, all moves necessary to be able to focus, to address this. All funds must be sent here to Kanienkehaka, not for it to be like in the bureaucratic fashion where it just gets dispersed to people who don't need it or whatever, but where it comes direct to help the people, direct into the people of Kanienkehaka. Because if you did go to school there and you're affected by it, and like he said, some jobs even ask if you were exposed to chemicals, maybe you couldn't get the job that you wanted, that you really had your heart set for. And that means you couldn't live the lifestyle that you wanted. And that means how many people in Kanienkehaka We're subjected to doing things that the outside considers to be illegal. They have criminalized us through this process.
But there is some compensation.
And by not telling us.
The Grass and Arrows First Nation is now suing the Ontario government for millions of dollars because of mercury contamination.
Okay, your next game.
You would have a
card
case.
is a single bingo. One line.
You have a case.
Four corners good.
So money doesn't buy health, but making the polluter pay and giving compensation to people who, as you said, I mean, if a kid that was exposed when he was 13 years old, and because of that exposure wasn't able to become an engineer or a doctor because he had learning difficulties, well, that person has lost income, and that person should be compensated. And if the federal government, the provincial government, and the polluter did that to them, they should pay. So money doesn't buy health, but money can compensate for loss. And so there is, I believe, there is a case for important compensation to the community here if it is shown that people have been exposed and people have been affected. So, I mean, it doesn't cure, it may not even help, but at least it may compensate a little bit of what happened.
The number one thing about that, you know, just like whenever there's even, say, an out-of-court settlement for anything, what it identifies is guilt. And that means intention. And this is what's important here for our people to know and understand, that there was an intent. And there are people who are directly guilty of these things, as opposed to just walking around in this world and being oblivious to everything, the way that the majority of Kanienkehaka is. We must not be oblivious. We must stand up and take our individual responsibility back to protect our people. Because protection of our people, of our nation, is dependent on every one of us within the nation. Not somebody that you delegate to watch over us. That's an unnecessary bureaucracy. We got to take care of our own families. We got to take care of our own nation. Okay, so is there anybody else who wants to address anything on this?
I just want to say, now that it's all exposed, now that it's all exposed, are you going to let the kids be playing out there?
Good bingo. Congratulations to the winner.
There should be a public health guidance. Somebody should, the Department of Public Health in Saint Catherine was non-committal, which doesn't surprise me. Not all public health doctors have courage. Some of them do, some of them don't. Like human nature. But there should be a public health assessment to see, at minimum, should the kids be playing in the field, being exposed to deposition. And Kerry's data will show that there's been lead deposition. Preliminary data shows that the snow has a lot of lead. Now that snow happened between November and March. Now April. It's supposed to be in April. But this is recent accumulation from temperature. So there is lead in the field. Should the kids be playing soccer on lacrosse?
No way.
And so they said don't drink sap. Don't make maple syrup with the sap. Well, maybe some person will say, well, maybe we should not. Maybe the track and field season that will be starting soon should not happen.
I think about the sap. They had that sugar thing or whatever just a few days before.
Yeah.
So everybody consumed it. I imagine. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if they consumed it before it was boiled down to maple syrup. I hope that they caught it in time.
Yeah, because they had it before.
But I mean, even if you boil it, isn't it still there?
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't it even concentrates. It's a bad thing. I mean, the ratio of is 40 times. So you would have 40 times higher concentrations in the nasal sample of lead than in the sap. So no, it was a good thing that they stopped it. But now that lead is there, is still there, and the kids will start be playing in the field, taking up dust and breathing it in. So there should be immediate testing in the fields around KSS, and there should be an assessment. Do we let the kids play in that area that has received lead deposition? And that decision has to be made quickly.
Well, I'll say right here, based on all the information, all the knowledge that any person with a half a brain should have, is that the student should be removed out of there immediately. It's an emergency. Right now, today. Do not send your kids back to that school tomorrow. If you do, you are consciously exposing them to something that you know is going to do great harm to their brain, to their reproductive systems, to everything. Take your kids out of that school immediately. Anybody else wants to address anything?
Maybe just us. Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, I think he did. He wanted to say something first.
Some
right?
quick.
Yeah, because he was trying to say something.
Yeah, so my mother was a doctor. Her name's Ojisto Horn, and she studied epidemiology and biostatistics. So it's the health of the environment and the health of a population. Mm-hmm. And she has been trying to get studies done in Akwesasne. Same discussions we're having, but the funding is an issue, the jurisdictional issues, with the corporations getting away. So right now, collecting this data is very important, and it's how do we, like, the survey, like the question one, that got me interested, because that
I will give you my card.
Yeah.
You will give my card to your mother.
Yeah.
And we could talk.
And she worked in Grassy Narrows, working with people with mercury poison. So she's seen, like, hands-on. So
Yeah, and the questionnaires already exist for Grassy Narrows, so they can be adapted for here.
and she's the president of the APAC, Indigenous Physicians Associations of Canada. So all the Indigenous physicians in the different provinces, she is the president of it. So they have like a monthly, or every 2 months we'll have this big Zoom call, but it will reach other Indigenous communities and the physicians who work in these communities, who are not just Indigenous physicians, but also non-native physicians or doctors who are working in these communities. So
Ask your mother to give me a call.
yeah.
And tell your mom that the Kanienkehaka Land Defenders are willing 100% to work
Yeah.
with her, to assist in whatever way our political beliefs or affiliations does not come into factor in any way in this. The help does.
I just wanted to get back to what he was saying earlier about the sap being all infested with lead and everything. My grandson was there last week, and he said that they did drink all this sap water and all that before it was being boiled and everything. So now, if it's in the sap, we all know it's in the ground. So in the first place, like you said earlier, those kids shouldn't be there for any reason. If the ground's infected like that, it's bad medicine. They shouldn't be walking on it or disturbing anything. That place should be shut down, and I think that there should be a class action lawsuit from all the people that went to that school against this company, because they need to pay. They need to pay. Because all the people, when I was younger, I didn't go to school there, but I worked there, and I helped build that place. And from day one, it was no good there, and it just got worse. And it's taking so much effect on the younger kids now. Now that they're older, you get a lot more diseases, a lot more mental health, a lot more everything, cancer, everything that we never had before.
The good news, as any good news here, is case law in Canada dealing with class action suits for environmental effects is more and more accepted by the courts. So, and there are lawyers specialized in Quebec that are specialized in environmental contamination class actions. And I know them because I've worked with them. And so
Well, you have any of that work pro bono?
Well, what's interesting with the class action is that they're only paid if they win, and there's the polluter that pays.
We're playing on the olive green part.
And in Quebec, there is a class action fund, so the victims don't pay anything, and so there is a way out. I dealt with one class action, I'm dealing with another one now with lawyers, so there would be an important opportunity for some legal consultations.
Well, I think that's what needs to be done in this case, because the ball's just going to be rolling over until we stop it.
But I could tell you one thing: when the lawyers get involved, especially if the lawyers are representing the victims, then the governments start paying attention.
Well, I mean, if that's what it takes, that's what we need to do.
And sometimes that's what it is.
You know, it seems a nice situation. That's what we need to do.
So I could talk to some of the lawyers that I know. The question is, who do they talk to?
Yeah. That's the thing, you know, when
But anybody could be a representative. You could be a representative for class action. Okay?
Well, the land defenders, we could be all representatives of that.
But usually it's one or two, three people, physical people, that are saying, I represent the community. And so, but that's how it works in the legal system. But I think you would have a case.
just for everybody to know on this level of thinking about taking a legal action, because we got to remember a treaty. Now, treaty means there's supposed to be a process between us. So we know it's a gray area right now. Some of you may know that I got a case that's currently in the Supreme Court of Canada. Now, we done this all ourselves with no lawyers whatsoever. And to get to the Supreme Court of so-called Canada, this is, it's no small task. It's no small...
The way the people like us can help you, because they have been through a massive industrial contaminated General Motors and co-op.
So the summary is that I have to speak with my mom about this specific because I was talking with him a couple months ago, Kerry Diabo. I was talking to him like 6-7 months ago about all this stuff, and then I have to get back on board with it because my mom at the Longhouse in Akwesasne, she wanted to do some public, not workshops, but just we sit and at least educate ourselves, maybe like an hour or an hour and a half or something, have a mini meal and just educate our people slowly. So the general, it's not just a few, it's not compartmentalized and siloed the knowledge in like 5 people. We have to depend on them. So if one of them's not there, then we don't have that knowledge. We need to essentialize the information of this pollution, which is just having these little mini discussions and kind of just building up that knowledge base through the people.
in Akwesasne are now all PCB experts, and one day here in Kanienkehaka, you're all going to be lead experts.
Well, we are intrinsically. It's not funny, but we are intrinsically. Well, let your mother know also that like information dissemination into the community, meetings, stuff like that, this group, that group. We invite your mom to the weekly Zooms that we do every Wednesday or Saturday, where she can come and give like an update or something about what's in Akwesasne and see how we can merge things here in Kanienkehaka. In Kanienkehaka, there's on average about 500 people who are watching each Zoom that we do every Wednesday, every Saturday. So again, despite of political affiliations, it's the information. So your mom has a platform here in which to bring this on that level publicly, where it could be visually, audio, you know, that kind of sharing. So a lot of people can't make it physically to a meeting, you know, so if not, something like this could facilitate. And if she's not willing to come to our Zoom because of whatever political, whatever, then she can create her own here in Kanienkehaka. It should be done through, I don't know, whatever platforms are there. So we should all do this, and I'll say, Jason, you nailed it on the head when you said bad medicine. Because we all know the wata. This is a gift of Sawarierda. This is our medicine. And this systemic racial, colonial, environmental, and industrial genocide is turning our medicine into bad medicine. It's truly bad medicine. So this is on levels of the utmost importance. Okay, is there anything else, anybody? If not, do you think it's good enough for us to close up today? Okay, I know we didn't really do a proper opening because of things. I don't want to just suppose that people would want me to do an opening, but we're going to do a closing. Anybody want to offer to do the closing? Anyone? Okay, well, on a gadi wahi joke was but I'm see us now. Because he does it, you're just go how we know you got it's going to stop. No, not that. Look at that. See, right there while we're meeting. This is the poison. So, years ago, we were done some hodo on this issue. I wouldn't even know how to identify this issue in Kanienkehaka. So, anyways, time to bring this to an end. Gurunga Garia Gesu, yet the Sota Asatanka Garakwa, yet in the Stati Hunzagi, then a Gueguscat, ne Gunungwe. That in a Wuradu, so a year than it. Kundun Hetzerat Gawis, a Guades and E, Ganyata the Gerda, than a Quego or Quazri, and Unco Summa. That in a Wuradu, yet the Sota Gunhan, there, not the Hetz, and a Gani Gurir, that the Hawakwe. Ayoki up again, had Dam Dawi, I don't Hetzera, Gazat Stasera, ne Kanienkehaka. Asat ni got Nardike, Kanienkehaka, Radinyato, Ronata Runi, Dono Discarebage. Dam Dawi, I don't Katsera, a Guego and a Gordo, Guyana Rasarago and Escana. Dam Dawi, I don't know how to say this, the fighting spirit. Stand up and take responsibility for our children. Stop being the bureaucratic Ganawagi that we are and start returning to our own empowerment. Togatena no hodi adaksam. Air the sawit, air the sawit, air the sawit. Kenya Hezewaits and Joanna. Tony Awanage, Nyawagoa. Thank you so much, everybody. Your faces beneath the earth are happy today because they see you standing to take action to protect them. Nyawagoa to you for coming. This is a great thing that you're doing. I know, I understand everything that you're up against. We're up against a lot of stuff too, and we know that within your profession that you're up against a lot. So it means a lot for everybody to be here today, and everybody who spoke here today, it means a lot. We're breaking through imaginary divisions that prevented us from talking on important issues in the past. It should never happen again. We should all, no matter what, come together to talk about the important issues. So, Nyawagoa, everybody. And just so that you know, we're going to be talking about this and assessing it on tonight's Wednesday night Zoom. So if anybody's interested, there you go. Nyawagoa. Wow. 6 o'clock?